All right, hello everyone, and welcome to Theory Crafting Thursday. Of course, I'm your host Ursinity, and today's a special day. Of course, we have our, the regular special Proud.
Yeah.
Yep, and then to add to the wondrous events of this week of Theory Crafting Thursday, whatever numbered episode it is, we have a special guest today. We've got Lurkaderp, Statswoman extraordinaire, general Dota personality that we all enjoy, in-house attendee. More importantly than any of the various accolades that she may have. That's probably number one.
Have in-house attendee is definitely the most prized.
Yep, solid 490 dot points. Yeah, it's not necessarily a hard degree to get, but it's an important one. So yeah, I mean that's the cast for tonight. So of course we'll be running a trilane, and I'm looking forward to it. Anyway, kick us off. How have your guys' weeks in Dota been? Or rather, your guys' singular week been in Dota?
I'll go first. I'll get that one sorted out. It's been okay. Not been as bad as previous ones or as good as previous ones, but okay. Played a few games, won a few games, lost a few games. Played PO mid. That was cool. I haven't actually done that before, but it was good. Who did I land against? I landed against a Bat Rider, and it went super great because I got a rune, and then I kept throwing my lance, and then I won the lane. So I liked that pretty well. It was good.
Huh. Yeah, I saw a Miracle running that actually on stream the other day. I think it was Miracle.
Yeah.
I'm a fan. It's interesting.
It's supposed to mostly counter Invoker just because you can press W whenever he cold snaps, and that kind of just wins you the lane. So, it's neat. I like it. I like that you can run another carry mid because I like to carry, and I don't like to mid, so this makes it okay.
Yeah, that's the classic Proud mid. So Lurka, we played yesterday, so I suppose we both have that mutual experience of fortunately winning. But other than that, how has your Dota been treating you recently?
I'm sad to say that our game last night was the exception rather than the rule for my past week. I did a lot of losing, then I won an ARDM match, and then I lost some more, and then I won our match last night. So that was a nice turn of events. But I've also started doing... I've realized that one of my big issues is overthinking things in games. So one time a week, a friend hops on with me and basically tells me exactly what to do in game, and I'm not allowed to think about it. I just have to do it, which worked out reasonably well because I won that one.
Oh, that's interesting. I've actually, I do a decent amount of coaching and teaching games, etc., and I've actually never thought of doing that as a strategy. That's interesting. So you think it worked well for you?
I think it would only work on heroes I haven't really played before, because otherwise I have like that automatic instinct of, this is the build I want to go for, this is the thing I want to do in this situation, even if it's an unfamiliar situation.
Huh, okay. I may actually have to try that now. I had never thought of that. Generally, micromanagement is a pastime of mine in Dota games, for better or worse. So, as I'm sure we ran into yesterday. But, all right, and I mean, as far as my week in Dota's been... same old. We won back some points after last week's horror show, and hopefully Cyphus is in the same boat. I know Cyphus and I had a rough week, and we're gaining it back on stream, mostly actually, and we're bringing ourselves back to zero tilt gaming and cleansing the slate, etc. So I mean that's been that. All right, well, before we drone on about won games or lost games and pubs, let's just jump right into it, shall we? So this week, of course, like we said, we have 3 people. So that means we're going to run a tri-lane instead of our regular duo lane or the occasional one person plus a roaming whomever. And we tried to pick these heroes to keep with the metagame because one of these heroes... I suppose I won't spoil it because we're going to have like one whole minute of hype. One of these heroes is the cancer of any and all pub games that I've been in recently, outside of the obvious like OD Omni Knight Zeus Spectre.
Really?
Yeah, dude. Okay. So
whatever you say, man. I'm not going to tell you how your life goes.
But so today, all right, we're going to be running Ursa. He's one of the 3 heroes. This will be the Proud hero, of course, because Ursa, he punches real good. Proud, he likes to punch.
He's also a bear. I mean, we connect the dots. It's like Lone Druid, only I don't get a Druid to play.
Yeah, there's some weird joke here between my name and your liking of bear heroes and all that. Yeah, we're not going to go there, though. And Lurka tried to decipher, I very clearly remember this, tried to figure out where my name is from, and we declined to give that information out, which was for the best. Otherwise, this recording would not be as pleasant, I'm sure. But that's that. We're not going to go any farther with the bear tangent.
It was a great conversation.
So we're going to be playing Ursa. Lurka, in your professional stats person, stats woman, stats official
Aficionado,
opinion.
I think, is the term.
Aficionado. I like that.
Use it whenever you can.
What do you think about Ursa? We see him every once in a while. I clearly remember, I think Eternal Envy played a few Ursa games recently, and
not the biggest advocate for Ursa after watching that game.
Yeah, well,
or at least for Envy playing Ursa.
I mean, he's an interesting hero in this patch. He's one of the ones who has a similar win rate in pubs and in pro matches. He's 56% in pro matches, and if he's safe laning, he's 56%. He drops off a little bit if he's jungle or off lane in most pubs. But overall, I like him for his pushing capacity. I like playing him with the Standard Deviant Noobs, our 80-12 team. I love how he pairs up with an armor kill lineup.
Oh, yeah.
And I think he's fun to send different places on the map. And as his win rate shows in the different pubs, he is functional in a variety of capacities.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I guess Proud, you've had a different experience, but I recently, actually, I think I've had an Ursa in all my games today, almost all of them, and in a recent, last week or so, I've just been seeing this hero all the time, in the safe lane, in the jungle, in the mid lane, in aggro lanes, and he's just so dominant. I feel like this hero is one of those heroes that's really just hard to shut down, and if you give him an inch, he gets a mile. I don't know. That's not how that expression goes, but that's what happens.
Yeah, I don't know.
Do you think this hero
I've
is
seen
not
him once. I'm looking at my games. I've seen him once in the last 20 games, and I killed him a lot. So, I mean, he's good. It's just I don't think that he has enough agency on his own to really be a pub killer. If you're gonna grind to 8K, you're not gonna pick Ursa, right? He's pretty dependent on your opponents making mistakes, or your team playing well around you and that kind of thing. He's definitely good. I've no debates there. I just don't think he's fucking 1 versus 9 hero or anything like that.
Oh yeah, I think that's fair. Definitely, there are a select few heroes that are capable of the 1v9.
Yeah, but those are the heroes that I would put in that top 3 pub heroes. OD, Spectre, and even Omni Knight. Those are some 1v9 heroes. But I don't think Ursa quite earns that spot as pub cancer.
Yeah, definitely as and I know Lurker, you're in a similar boat. As a primarily support player, Omni Knight is one of my go-to 1v9 heroes in that, I don't have to steal away the person that only plays Core's role to competently carry the game over, but as long as I can keep everybody alive, and, my method has always been to just prevent the people from doing the stupidest possible thing, and if they do it, then, make sure they live through it. And here's Dazzle and Omni Knight. Yeah, exactly. Free BKBs. Turns out, good ability.
Yeah, Omni Knight is the single highest win rate this patch in pubs.
Oh yeah, it's been like that for years, it seems like. Even though everybody always complains about so and so is so OP, yada yada. Omni Knight still always finds a way to just be the best hero in pubs and then almost never get picked in pros. For, fairly clear reasons. Although I suppose we should go over them. Lurka, do you actually, off the top of your head, how often do you even see Omni Knight in pros? Since you're the
he's only been picked in 35 matches this patch, and I'm trying to think when the most recent one was. Actually, I can check that real quick. Let's see. Most recently was in the We Pick qualifiers. Honestly, the most pickups are from Smash and IX Mike actually. Which tells you it's not necessarily something that tier 1 teams are playing all that much. Universe has picked it up once. Other than that, for the most part, it's something that tier 2, tier 3 teams have been capitalizing on, which I kind of think plays into his pub win rate, in that even if your team isn't solid and perfect and fantastically well coordinated, you can make a game winnable with an Omni Knight. Whereas at the really highest levels, he's still good. He's not a bad hero. It's just there are other heroes that you can make even better when you play around each other well. So if you have that degree of team coordination, you don't necessarily need to rely on one single Omni Knight to make things good.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, and I know in pros there's always this stigma I mean, it's not really a stigma. It's just people don't like running melee supports, and coincidentally, we're gonna end up running 2 melee supports here. But melee supports kind of suffer a little unless they're like the hyper aggressive ganking kind, like your Earth Spirits or your Tusks, and that's kind of always a weakness. Is that like you run an Omni Knight and like what do? Your lane just kind of loses. You can't zone out the off laner, although that's not as big a deal anymore because off laners just
Omni
get
can.
anything.
He's a pretty good zoner, honestly, with level one degen aware. Good stuff.
Yeah, plus Aura Venom.
Yeah.
But then again, like you don't have that much kill potential with an Omni Knight.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like in a meta dominated by like where Lion can be first pick because he has an AOE stun and a hex and a mana drain and like a kill spell. Like Omni Knight, from a pro perspective, where you want to get proactive early, you want to set the tone of the game. Like Omni Knight is not going to do that for you. If the game's like passive, Omni Knight's going to win it. If it's like very active, like if Fi and Fenrir are coming to your lane, like Omni Knight is not their hero. You can guess.
Yeah, he's not maybe the most like flashy hero, that's for sure.
Building force.
Oh, of course. I mean, then again, just building mobility on any hero is god tier. Especially like if you already have a blink spell, that's why you get a blink dagger. You blink twice as much. It makes it even harder.
You both are getting 4 stabs, and you're just gonna push my little bear bum around. It's gonna be great.
Yep, that's the plan. It's actually a totally viable plan too. So, to divulge the next 2 heroes that are gonna be in our trilane, despite the fact that we talked about Omni Knight so much, we're not actually playing that hero.
We're not playing him.
No,
of course not. He's stupid.
Yeah, he was relegated to what? We ran him in an Omni Pudge game. So, that was the introduction of Korean barbecue. So that was a success in and of itself.
I don't know. I'm bitter. You burned PA when I wasn't playing. You burned Omni Knight when I wasn't here. Like, you guys suck.
If it helps, I think we won both of those games. So
it doesn't.
You have that pride. Anyway, the next 2 heroes we're going to be running are going to be our 2 supports, and it's going to be Tusk and Ogre, which Tusk is a little. I'm not sure what the word would be. He was like the most popular hero by far last patch in pros and even in pubs. We saw him constantly. Now he's still pretty popular, but he's kind of he hasn't lived up to his old glory. And then Ogre Magi, hero that kind of got nerfed a lot, but we hope to have good success with. I know Roland is a big fan of Ogre Magi, and I too enjoy me some Ogre. But yeah, so that's gonna be Lurka and I's heroes. And what do you guys think about them? Before we even go into all 3 of them combined, just Tusk Ogre is there are definitely some pros and cons that jump out at me. If you guys want to jump into them before I do.
So with Tusk, I feel like he was definitely like the best hero in Dota for a while, and then he got nerfed, and he was still like one of the best heroes in Dota. But then Earth Spirit happened, and then it was like, why do I pick Tusk when Earth Spirit does the same thing, only he also has a team fight ult, and it's like a longer duration stun, and it's AoE, and there's a silence. So he kind of got like out Earth Spirit in that regard, and then if you can pick Earth Spirit, you're not going to pick Tusk, and if you can't, like other heroes have started to get played more, so you're not quite as comfortable with Tusk. So like unless you're Jerax, it seems like most high-level teams aren't too interested in the Tusk anymore. He's definitely still good. He's just like not as like he's not the best thing ever in his role. His role is so good though that you always kind of want someone that sort of does what he does. But just the fact that Earth Spirit exists makes people not quite as practiced with him and not as quick to pick him up. So that's just kind of where I think he fits right now.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, we can't all be Jerax. Although, yeah, I mean Jerax. That's like one of the. I'm definitely not a stats person, and I have a terrible memory for these types of things.
But I think you have one of those though.
Yeah, fortunately we do. No, but one of my favorite stats was that in a span of like something like 50 games, or it was probably less than. I think it was more like 30. Jerax played either Tusk or Earth Spirit in like 27 of them, and it was like that's just the kind of player he is. Nowadays he plays Phoenix though, which is pretty cool. Although I don't play that hero, I'm garbage at Phoenix. But yeah, so what do you think, Lurka? What are your opinions on Tusk? Excuse me.
I agree that part of the reason Tusk got bumped out of the meta is definitely the rise of the Earth Spirit. For one thing, in addition to the fact that he's like actually a really good hero, he's new, he's flashy, he's just been introduced to Captain's Mode, so of course people are going to want to play him. And Tusk has been played so much, especially last patch, that people became adapted to him, started to figure out what you can and can't do to work around him.
Sure.
You throw an Earth Spirit into the mix, and things get shaken up a little bit more. That was not an attempt at an Earthshaker Earth Spirit joke, I swear.
It's all right. It worked out either way.
I'm not gonna do it,
that
but
being
okay.
said, for me, obviously the biggest drawback of Tusk and Ogre Lane is, as you mentioned, it's melee. Throw in the Ursa, it's even more melee. However, for melee supports, Tusk and Ogre do both have some range-ish spells, things that you can harass with, things that you can push people out with.
Yeah, so, I mean, you kind of perfectly segued us into the synergy part. The whole point of this try is that, yes, on one level, running a whole bunch of melee heroes is a very clear weakness in any game. Honestly, it's really rough to run a double melee support. A lot of times, like, if you were going to pick something like this, you'd want to just, like, offlane a Tusk and then run, like, Ogre Magi and, like, Shadow Shaman or some support that has range and zoning potential, etc. But with this trilane, the basic idea behind it, or I suppose the theory crafting, to coin the term, behind it is that we will kind of, by the nature of Snowball, we can diminish the fact that Ogre Magi, if anybody doesn't remember, he used to be a really good hero, but then, he's still a pretty good hero, but then they took away range from his Fire Blast, and with the advent of Aether Lens, he's kind of come back a bit, but he's still a little underpicked. But when you're snowballing in on somebody, it doesn't matter if you have 400 range on Fire Blast or 600 range, you're going to get the Fire Blast off. So between these two supports, they kind of work around each other, whereas Tusk, he lacks a hard stun, so certain heroes can just escape. And yeah, that's the gist of it. And, we'll punch pretty hard. And then, after all, we're bringing in Ursa into the mix too, and the nature of Snowball, Ursa, and even Ice Shards, Ursa, Ogre Magi, Ursa, etc. It's just given Ursa more time to sit on people and just, get those Fury Swipe stacks up, etc., etc. Plus, thinking a little ahead, is Frozen Sigil is quite good when you're trying to kill Roche, so that'll help you, Roche, Proud.
I feel like Ursa is one of the few heroes who doesn't need help to kill Roche, though, right?
You're right, but it never hurts. Never hurts. If I remember to use Frozen Sigil,
Right.
I notoriously, like, some people I see, they get it like really early at like level 3 or 4, and they like make great use of it. But I tend to wait, and then it has a little, I don't know.
I feel like it's kind of like Healing Ward, where like if you're not actually a practiced Tusk player, you just like. I mean, Healing Ward is obviously way, like, it's pretty obvious to know when to use Healing Ward, but, like, if you don't play Juggernaut that much, you might not understand how absurdly broken Healing Ward is. If you don't play Tusk that much, you may underestimate how good Frozen Sigil is, so I think they're kind of similar.
Yep. I knew a guy who will not be named, though many of us know him, who did not get Sigil ever. He was, like, level 21 on Tusk, and I was like, all right, scout Roche with Sigil, because I thought they were Roching or something like that. And he was like, oh, I don't have it. It's like, what do you mean you don't have it? And it's like, no, I just don't have it. It's like, that's his best ability.
On the plus side, you have another open slot on your friends list after that.
Yeah. Well, that he was decidedly not a support player, and he's an in-house regular.
Was it me?
You guys, no, it definitely was not you.
Okay.
We won't divulge the person, but he knows who he is, and that's your tip. But anyway, that's a weird tangent. And so I look forward to this. I've actually been playing quite a bit of Tusk. But I say quite a bit. I mean, I played like 2 games in the last few days. And
it's like 2 hours of experience, though,
Exactly. In many other games or many other respects, people would be impressed. They're like, wow, you spent 2 hours doing this one thing that has 4 buttons? Nope, not that impressive in terms of Dota. But I think this hero is definitely like a... when people always talk about, I think we kind of discussed this either earlier in the podcast or right before, in that like a lot of people kind of disparage the idea of supports win games in pubs because they're like, oh, you got a 1v9, yada yada. But Tusk is such a flashy hero. I feel like he can get so much done, even in like a bad game. And like Frozen Punch, or whatever the heck it's called, Walrus Punch, is just one of the most satisfying abilities in Dota. Even when you mess it up horribly and you Frozen, or your Walrus Punch a creep. I'm having some war flashbacks. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this. What do you guys think about like the overall synergy between the three? We've talked about.
Well, let's we haven't talked about Ogre Magi in a vacuum. We just.
Oh yeah, you're right. Let's do that.
Let's churn through that guy. He's nice and big.
Oh, two guys even. I suppose it. You know.
Depends how you interpret identity, but I guess so.
Well, do they have different names? I actually don't know the lore behind Ogre.
I don't remember their names, but they do have different names.
Okay, so we're just gonna take your word for it then.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I mean, because I mean, did Jukiro's heads have names? This is a weird tangent. This is like.
Sure. I think so. I think they're separated by like an apostrophe. This is the important stuff, dude. Like you can't just go over this.
Yeah. So
I'll figure it out. You talk. I'll figure it out.
I was gonna say this is how Proud cast drafts. If anybody's ever heard that, he sits around and he'll talk about like the advantage of like how many legs one team has, or like how they're all blue heroes, and then one team has like less blue heroes, so they're gonna lose.
There was someone who actually did an actual like research article for a university institution on whether the movement speed of heroes with 4 legs versus heroes with 2 legs was significantly different in Dota 2, and the answer was no.
Huh. That's interesting.
That makes my life a lot easier, honestly.
Yeah, Proud, you need to bookmark that study.
Yeah.
I'll find that for you.
I'll print it out and just like paste it to my wall. Just read it whenever I'm confused.
Boy, yeah, I've almost gone like, oh my god, I don't even know what the word would be. Like, I've almost reached peak nerd because I was thinking of blowing up, like taking screenshots of the map with the spawn boxes and like pasting them up on my walls so that like I would never mess up a D ward or a ward. And that's when I would realize that I have a problem. And then I didn't do that, but I still had that idea, and that scared me a little. Not gonna lie. I'm not crazy though, because I was gonna do it at work, so I wouldn't waste my printer ink. So it would have been fine. Anyway, that was some. The Ogre Magi singularly, we kind of briefly touched on it, but the biggest difference in this hero for me, ever since they nerfed him, is he still has like 18 armor at level 2, which is just obscene, and he has tons of health regen. Like he is a force to be reckoned with, regardless of one name or two name, one head or two heads, or his weird man boobs. The nature of him is just like run at people and be annoying, and he kind of definitely epitomizes that characteristic. And with Aetherlens, they kind of is like a pseudo reversion, which is not a word, of his nerfs, which is huge. And he actually farms pretty decently with fire. What is it? Ignite?
Yes.
Or no? Yeah, Ignite.
No, that's it. You got it.
Yeah. Well, because Ignite and Fire Blast, it's all fire stuff. Who knows? So yeah, I mean, I like this hero. Lurka, since you'll be playing Ogre, what are your feelings about Ogre? I know you're an Ogre player, so...
Yes. I'm a big fan of him because, at least for me personally, he forces me to play outside my comfort zone of defensive support, sit back, stack, etc., etc. Because Ogre is designed to be up and in your face and annoying you and harassing you and being tanky as all get out in the process. You almost have to play him with a bit of overconfidence in order to make him as useful as he can actually be. I love that you can add a little bit of range to him with his spells as opposed to just, bopping people with a club upside the head.
Yeah.
As entertaining as bopping people upside the head with a club is, I think he does.
I need to ask you a question. Where do you stand on the issue of running versus hitting? Which is more fun?
Well, I'm one of those insane people who thinks that running 26.2 miles at a time is a great idea. So I like running more.
That's
which is
fair.
Probably why Ogre forces me out of my comfort zone, because clearly, as stated in his lines, Ogre likes hitting more.
That's something. That's like, honestly, Proud, I don't know if that was planned, but that was like the perfect transition into her Twitter bio, and boy, I'm impressed. All right. Anyway, I prefer the running, but then again, hitting is a good cathartic experience for an Ogre Magi player. Anyway, the Bloodlust is also like, it's one of those abilities I feel like people underestimate or underrate just in general. And Ogre Magi is also one of these weird heroes, or I shouldn't say weird because it's a lot of heroes, in that he really suffers from the fact that he only has he only has so many skill points in the early game when all his abilities are really good. So Bloodlust kind of gets left in the lurch, as they say, by a lot of players. Some people get it at they'll have 1-1 or 1-2-1 at 4, or 2/1/1 at 4. But Bloodlust plus Ursa is going to be stellar. I'm excited to see that. I think that like all three of these heroes have some nice synergy, although intuitively they also have some kind of failings, mutual failings, I suppose. If we're against Blink heroes, we just cry. I don't know. We just come to a huddle and realize all right, we're all building sheep sticks. I don't know.
Which is viable on all heroes. So.
It is true.
Maybe not Tusk quite as much, but whatever.
I built it. I think my last Tusk game I built a sheep stick. I may not have finished it. I don't remember. Actually, no, I built dumb things. I remember we were winning by a lot, and I was like, this is going to make this a fun game. And then I built a Deso and something else. Maybe an armlet. I don't remember. Somebody can look it up. Not me, though.
I just want to say, Ogre Magi, his name is Agron Stonebreaker, and some people say one of the heads' names is Agron, the other one's Stonebreaker. Some people don't. Jakiro, his name's just Jakiro. Some people say one head's name is Jack, the other one is Ero, but for the most part, they're singular identity beings. So that's what we're dealing with.
Huh?
Just so we know, so we're aware of that. I didn't think so, but hey, that's reality. You gotta accept it.
Yeah, I mean, I respect their choices to have one name. That's some quality Proud drafting material. Maybe.
Well, I mean, once things are interesting, there's some conversation. But for the first couple bands and picks, you gotta know the psychology behind the character.
Yeah, I had a very good time listening to you. Whenever you've casted with someone who you have not casted with before, them acclimating to your very unusual drafting, your drafting commentary, that's a good time. That's honestly more entertaining than Dota itself.
I'm a national treasure. What can I say?
Yeah, AG or Silver or Amateur Gangster, Amateur Genius, whatever. He has 18 names, and none of them are his actual name either.
Absolute Guadalupe, I think, was the main one.
Yep, that one. Angry Gorilla. Anyway, he and you pairing for the first time, I was just laughing hysterically because you went off on some weird tangent about legs or purple heroes, and he was just at a loss. It was great. Anyway, that's not gonna happen tonight because we're just gonna play the game regular. Anyway, we are. I don't even know. Do we have any more discussion before we actually jump into the game?
Talk about Ursa a little bit as far as his items go, because he's been changing a lot recently.
Oh yeah,
I feel every time he gets a lot of play, it's over a tournament, and then his meta evolves or is discovered extremely quickly, and then all of a sudden you don't hear about anything again. So Mask of Madness was kind of how Ursa was first figured out, or was first kind of found in the wild. And the way that was first popularized was watching RTZ die with it against Ancients. So that's always interesting. So Mask on Ursa is actually really good. There's the obvious interaction with Enrage, blah blah blah. You take less damage, but taking % less damage and more damage in Dota interacts kind of strangely. So Mask is actually really good on Medusa and with Enrage effects like Ursa. But kind of the bigger actual thing there is so Overpower is a really good tool for farming. It's pretty similar to PA. How PA's Phantom Strike it solves your attack speed problems when all you're doing is attacking a hero 4 times and then being kited and then attacking a hero 4 times. So it's pretty good in that regard. But in terms of actual farming, if you don't clear a camp in an Overpower, you're stuck attacking once every 1.5 seconds, waiting for this creep to die, and it's awful. But if you have Mask of Madness, you can kind of toggle Mask of Madness to kill a camp, then the next camp Overpower, and then the next camp Mask of Madness, etc. So it actually helps your farm an absurd amount. And it just it just fits into Ursa's not consistent need for attack speed pretty well. So I look at a lot in that regard. You just go Phase, Mask, Blink, and then Ags is really good. BKB, he's not a very offensive item dependent hero. You just need a lot of mobility and utility on him. So he's pretty fun.
Yeah.
That shit.
I think there's definitely 2 types of Ursa games though, because a lot of times I'll see the more offensive build with it's kind of offensive utility though, right? You go Abyssal and Diffusal, stuff like that. So
early Abyssal is so good.
It's a mix of, it's kind of the same thing between Sheep too, is that a lot of people go Sheep Ursa, but ever since they changed how his ult works, that scales a little less well because you don't benefit as much from the strength as you used to. That's actually been one of the things I had to train myself out of, because for so long the build on Ursa was you'd get Phase, Vlad's, Blink, and then 3 hearts. and that was just what you did because his ult used to scale off health. So it was just like, all right, I just need maximum health efficiency. So you just bought a bunch of hearts.
Sure.
And that is decidedly not the build anymore.
Yeah,
I learned after mistakenly building a heart once, and it did not pan out.
No,
so I guess on the topic of items, Lurka, if you want to just go into quickly what you plan to buy on Ogre. I know this is Ogres are more of a standard hero than Ursa, a lot less variability. But people have their preferences.
I've been experimenting this patch with looking at what I can do about his range, honestly. I usually always start out with an orb, try and get one, because I always have mana management issues on him. And, I'm a support. I buy wards instinctively.
Yeah.
Get my mana boots up, disassemble, make ether lens. 4 staff for mobility is always good. Somewhere in there, maybe a poor man's shield, maybe a bracer, depending on how things are going in lane and how aggressive I'm being. I'm a big fan of a value bracer on just about anybody, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no,
and of course, if I can, Ags.
Yeah, Ags is the that's the peak of the mountain. That's what you're looking to get. Although to be fair, in many Ogre games, you get like your point booster and your staff of wizardry, and then you're like, all right, I need to buy sentry wards or I need to do yada yada. So that's always something. It's something to aspire to, I suppose.
One cool thing about Ogre Ags I like is that his the second Fire Blast you get, the Unrefined, wasn't hit by the Fire Blast range nerf, so it still has really good range as opposed to your regular Fire Blast, which doesn't, which I always thought was pretty interesting. But yeah, man, Ogre Ags, go for it. It's the best. Great.
Yeah, I'm all about it. It's it definitely. I actually really enjoy the mechanic that it scales in mana cost relative to your mana pool, which is interesting, especially if you go the build where you buy mana boots, disassemble, and then build Aether Lens with that, and then you just have brown boots or tranquils or whatever. Probably just brown boots, honestly. You wouldn't normally go back for tranquils. Personally, I like Soul Ring as well because then you get to disassemble your mana boots, but you still have the on-demand mana from a Soul Ring. But really, honestly, either way, it can go either way. I've actually seen some core Ogre run recently, much to my dismay in general. But still, it's something interesting. I've seen people, they build Aetherlands and they rebuy the mana boots, and then late game they go Octarine, and it's actually obscene how many stuns they can throw out. It's pretty terrifying.
I got wrecked by a core Ogre who did that about 3 weeks ago, and it was miserable.
Yeah, it's one of those weird cores, kind of like, gosh, I guess I'll bring it up. It's kind of my pocket strat I've been wanting to run for a little while in-house, but
Great.
He's one of those cores where it really surprises people, where you think he's just always a support. But Disruptor is in a similar vein, in my opinion, where you can go core Disruptor and it's actually crazy strong in certain games because he just has so much offensive potential, and everybody knows the nature of supports is they do so much with so little. So when you give the hero that does so much with so little a lot, you get some unexpected results.
How does Disruptor have offensive potential?
Honestly, that's my counter for Invoker this patch. If they Invoker mid, I'm not a huge jerk, so I don't play OD, but it's either you pick Zeus or you pick Disruptor. And you do alright, so when you're supporting Disruptor, this is something. Alright.
Yeah.
Normally you'd level Glimpse a lot. But support or core Disruptor, what you do is you go 1-1-1, or I suppose at 3, you'd have 2-1-0. So you're maxing Lightning Strike, which is not what you do as a support.
Yeah.
And you just bully the crap out of the opposing laner.
Okay.
And with Glimpse, they can't get runes over you because you just glimpse them away from the rune. So you have constant mana. You have constant lightning. Lightning is one of the most efficient damage spells in the entire game, and it has crazy range to cast. And you just bully the crap out of them. And then you hit an early level 6, and then you just rotate, and whatever it is, every 100 seconds, you get at least one kill with your ult, glimpse, and lightning, and it's really good. And his Ags.
All right,
is
man.
really
Whatever.
Honestly, dude,
We have a conversation about this later.
it'll happen, and I will beat you with it. I swear, it'll happen.
I would love for it to happen.
Don't underestimate it.
Okay. I won't. I'll take it very seriously.
It's good. It's
we'll
good.
Draft it for Vafa. We're all set. I'm planning. I believe
draft
it.
it for me, and Vafa will play support or something.
Okay.
That guy, he needs to be humbled.
That's fair.
Anyway, That's gonna happen now. Like I'm actually kind of kicking myself because I really wanted to bring that out in house.
No.
And just like.
Well, I mean, now I'm gonna be even less likely to ban Disruptor against you because I just want to like.
That
like,
hurts.
please let him take it.
That hurts. That
These
really
top
hurts.
Points. I know, but you gotta be honest with your friends.
All right, next week we're gonna run mid Disruptor on Theorycrafting Thursday, and you can play whatever the heck you want, and I will single-handedly win the game. Okay?
Yeah, I'll be dual mid with you on support Terrorblade and just take all your last hits.
Yeah. Good luck. All right. Anyway, on that note, since we got off on some weird tangent, as always, let's hop into the game. We've already talked about our combo. The Tusk, the Ogre, or Ogres, or it's singular Ogre, 2 heads. Anyway, I'm fixating. And Ursa, so it'll be funny. Or Fuzzy Wuzzy, as he was named in Dota 1. Yep, that I've always missed the fact that they took away individual names. Now everybody just has one thing.
Yeah, that shit was dope.
It's a little disappointing. Anyway, so that's that. You'll have your 30 seconds of music. You can watch the VOD on .ptv1, our YouTube channel. I will put it up there, or Proud will put it up there. Probably me though. Anyway, that's that, and see you guys after the break.
Core Disruptor though. Okay.
All right, hello everyone, and welcome back to the second part of the podcast. We just finished our game. It was a pretty long game, actually. It was 58 minutes, and unfortunately, it was a loss. But that's just how it goes. It was a pretty fun game, I think, by all accounts, right, guys?
No.
No. All right, that's a resounding 0 on the 1 to 10 scale from Proud. Lurka, what do you think?
The times when I wasn't getting 2-shot by Sven, it was very fun.
That sounds about right from my experience as well. So I guess just to go over the teams, we had our 3 heroes, Ursa, Ogre, Tusk, in the bottom lane, safe lane, and our off lane was a Mirana, and we had a mid sniper. So we were kind of going back a couple patches, I suppose. And then the enemy team ran honestly, they kind of lane swapped constantly, but they pretty much had an aggro, or just like a duo lane, Centaur, Earthshaker against us. They had a Sven free farming top lane, a Timbersaw mid, and a support Leshrac that was roaming all around, a lot of times in top lane, a lot of times in our lane. And that's kind of just the teams. What do you guys think about how like the flow of the game went?
I think it was pretty. I don't know. It's I can't really parse it that well because I don't really know what Sniper and Mirana were doing the whole game. I actually did have a lot of fun that game. I was just being an asshole. But I don't know what. I just don't really know what they were doing, and that's not to like blame pubs or anything. I'm just like I'm not sure how to parse what happened. I feel like we played it pretty well. Like every time I got an item, we like did a team fight and we won it. Every time I didn't get an item, we did a team fight and we lost it. But like we played to our timings well. We like smoked Roche once and then like fought straight off of it, and like we took team fights and like we didn't use too much, and then like would take a tower, and like I feel like we played it pretty well. The Mirana ultis that came out were like all really good. It's just that like nothing really came together post 40 minutes, and that was kind of where we needed like because like we ganked pretty well, like we fought in little skirmishes as well, but like we didn't have the overarching like we didn't have the late game win covered. We had to kind of depend on the other guys, and that's not to say they were bad. It's just it's difficult to coordinate when you're 3 and they're 2, and I feel like that's kind of just where it kind of fell apart.
Yeah, I'm more or less in agreement. Lurka, what do you think about it? How did you feel, especially on the Ogre, who, like we said, we supports did not have the best time staying alive, despite the fact that like you have 18 armor and I have.
It's a little unusual to get 2-shot as an Ogre.
Yeah.
But I thought our lane had good synergy. Honestly, I thought we did a good job of controlling our lane. I thought we did a good job of harassing and occasionally killing. And that's not to say that Mirana and Sniper were doing bad necessarily. We couldn't actually see what they were doing, so I can't judge that as well. As the game went on, I think it got a little rougher. I know for me, I was having like where was the most useful place for me to be. Trying to get wards up, constantly getting dewarded was definitely an issue. They did a really good job of dewarding us. Like that's not like a discredit to our support. That's it. They did a really good job of finding our wards and getting rid of them.
The Lesh and Earthshake were on point. Also, we ran 2 melee supports, which was not ideal for dewarding.
Not ideal for dewarding.
Yeah, that happens.
But overall, it seemed like as much as our trio had pretty good synergy, the team itself didn't have the most synergy overall. And again, the Mirana did a great job with her ults, and Sniper didn't play badly or anything. It just wasn't the most synergistic lineup.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely so the enemy team. They had Timbersaw, who's just generally great against having a bunch of really tanky melee heroes like an Ursa Ogre Tusk combo, and that's not a hero that I like. It's not a hero that anybody sees very often, but he's still pretty strong, especially in situations like this. And he kept rotating down to our lane. Plus, he midded, so he had decent levels. So he had 6 pretty early, and he had some effective roaming. He didn't do a Bloodstone build, which I thought was interesting, because that's one of those items that people just default to. They're like, "Oh, I'm playing Timbersaw, of course I buy a Bloodstone."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is generally a pretty good idea, but in many games it's also like pretty game winning. Like he went Yule's first, and that was like a really decisive play that, or decisive item pickup that really helped him and really gave us a lot of grief.
Yeah, Yule's Ghost Scepter Timbersaw is not something because if you went Bloodstone first, like all Bloodstone does is make him like a very large Timbersaw, like just a thick Timbersaw instead of like just a Timbersaw. But like Yule's makes him a Timbersaw that doesn't exist, and a Ghost Scepter makes him a Timbersaw that also doesn't exist, which is really sad when you're Ursa. So I feel like that was definitely the play.
Yeah,
heads up stuff from the Timbersaw player.
Yeah, their team had, they had effectively 3 Ghost Scepters. The Leshrac ended up with an E-Blade, so, I'm a little biased. I like him. But, yeah, the Ghost Scepters were pretty disastrous for our team, because, it boosts Ogre's damage, but realistically, by the time they all had Ghost Scepters, the Ogre was not our, damage source, that's for sure, right? Like, we had a Sniper, who had Dragonlance, which we can talk about, and then we had, obviously, Ursa, Mirana, Tusk, and Ghost Scepter is just ruinous for the 3 of us, or the 4 of us. So that definitely put a hitch in our plans. And they had Sven, and everybody kind of knows nowadays how Sven tends to go, but this Sven armor was such a problem for me.
Yeah.
And everybody knows it's so much fun to use Walrus Punch, and you're like, oh, I did 500 damage with the ability, and he knocked up in the air, etc. It's so cool. But then in a game like this, it was all right, I see Walrus punched him. I did 125 damage because he has plus 30,000 armor because he has a Sven on his team.
Yeah,
it's just terrible.
Luckily, I don't think he maxed Warcry immediately, so it was 20,000 armor for the most part of the game. But then once he did, it was 30,000. It was pretty rough.
Yeah, and I imagine that's what it's like to play against an Ogre. I've never played against an Ogre before, so who would know? But that's kind of the gist of the game, honestly. It was one of these bloodbaths. Both teams were just kind of fighting at each other, and both teams had a bunch of tanky cores, and we were trading well for a while there. But overall, the general game, it could have gone better. They had a nice team fight too with Earthshaker.
They had some really good AoE stuns. They really had control, and but the stuns they had together had different timings on them, which let them stack them really conveniently. The Lesh stun is really inconvenient to try and hit if you're just running around by yourself as a Lesh. You've got an Earthshaker who fishers things for you, and a Centaur will stomp things for you. Then all of a sudden it's a heck of a lot easier to hit that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, that's totally true. Yeah, so they'd have the Centaur kind of in the middle, starting the fight out that we engage on, and then that allows the Earthshaker to counter initiate, and that allows the setup for the Leshrac, and then Sven is coming in from behind. So they just have 4 AoE stuns that all have different kind of applications that actually synergize it super well.
Yep.
Yeah. Plus, once Sven had a BKB, my ult went through it, but that was about it. And then the rest of you, and eventually you had an Abyssal. But there was just so many cores to control, and we had single target control and single target damage, but we didn't have that AoE control or AoE damage that we needed apparently.
God, there was one moment there. It was just the funniest thing. I couldn't help but laugh. But I was about to Abyssal Sven, and then I clicked Abyssal, and I clicked, and I looked, and there was a stunned Centaur there, and I was like, what the fuck? And then I look kind of in the split second I see there's those snowflakes for when you blink out. So it was Sven blinked out and Centaur blinked in the exact second I clicked, and I was like, Jesus Christ, come on.
Yeah, they had a ton of mobility and a ton of Ghost Scepters.
Yeah, it was a funny game.
Yeah, it was definitely something. I'm always happy nowadays to see a Leshrac that plays well because I feel like Leshrac is a criminally underplayed hero right now. He's definitely, I mean, obviously, he was hit real hard with the nerf stick or whatever weird euphemism people have for nerfing. But nowadays, like, I still think he's a pretty legit support as things go. And
Yeah, he's fine. It's like MVP ran him, right? But I think that was like as a safe laner or something.
I wouldn't know, but I just there are certain heroes that I think are pretty strong that are not picked ever, and Leshric's in that pool, so I'm happy to see him. His stuns were on point. Like granted, like Lurka said though, he did have a ton of setup, so we can't give him too much credit. We don't want to boost his ego too much, but it was quite nice. So what do you guys think? I guess Lurka, we'll start with you. What do you think, like just about the laning phase? Because we already kind of touched on it about how it's back and forth. We got some kills, but like from the actual. Thinking about the actual three heroes as a combo, like, what could have gone better, what could have gotten worse?
I think we did a really good. I honestly think we did do a good job controlling our lane. I think we could have done a slightly better job of harassing them a bit, in kind of a less mana dependent manner. I think I could have run at them a bit more because tanky ogre. But I think overall, the lane was never really out of our control. It never spent too much time pushed under their tower where Ursa couldn't get things safely. It never spent too much time way back at our tower until they rotated like 5 people down there at once to murder us all. I think making sure that we had stacks available in the jungle for Ursa would be good in the event that we did have issues with that lane. And just because it's good for Ursa to have stacks to go kill off. But otherwise, I think for the most part we played a pretty copacetic lane. I don't think there was anything particularly wrong with it or particularly exceptional about it in either direction.
Yeah, I'm more or less agreed. I kind of, before we get to you, Proud, I know, like, in theory, I was thinking of a more, like, kill-oriented lane, but, they ran tanky heroes against us, because obviously, like, we had to first 3 of these heroes, so, like, maybe in a different world, they pick, like, an off-lane lone druid or something, and you just, like, run at them, or, like, an off-lane brood, and you just bring dust, and you just kill them over and over again. Something like that would have worked. Whereas, like, they picked a bunch of AoE stun, and we don't know how reactionary or if they were just like, we're gonna pick these heroes anyway. It was, but that really hurt us, right? Like, because we would snowball in, sometimes a little throwy. Some of my snowballs were not the best, but then they would fissure us, and then centaur stun us, and then culling or the double edge us, and that became rough. But yeah, I think the real, like, my vision for this lane was we were going to continuously be, like, snowballing in on them and fighting. But then, like, practically, we very quickly realized that wasn't terribly viable because, like, if Ursa wasn't in lane, they would see him not in lane and they'd be like, all right, something has to be up because he's not farming lane. And then if you and I were missing, they'd be like, all right, we got to be a little careful because
someone's gonna gank us.
Exactly. But then if we don't snowball the Ursa in, Ursa has to run up, and even with phase, like, that would just diminish your kill potential so much, having to run, or you having to run to follow us when they would, like, already be running away from the snowball, and that it was problematic to say the least. So that kind of
I feel like there's some, because like you can pull someone in the snowball while you're going, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I feel like if we were super, super coordinated and knew exactly what we were doing, like, we could angle things perfectly and I could, like, phase boot right into your path and, like, fix it out just fine. But yeah, without, like, obscenely good coordination, and, like, if we ran this, like, 3 times, I'm sure we could get that a little more down. But yeah, like, as it was definitely kind of rough in that regard.
Yeah, I kind of agree. Like, there were a couple times where the snowball, like, picked you up and it helped, but then it's also, like even once I very clearly remember, snowball is kind of a disorienting ability if you're not, like, prepared for it. So
yeah,
or, like, it's very decisive, right? Like, I'm forcing you to come with me. So sometimes snowball is just like, I'm bringing you to your death, and then other times I'm like, all right, this is the right play, but, like, there's like so many different avenues for it to go wrong. That
yeah, no debates there.
Sometimes
I think partly with snowball, the big part is actually committing.
Yeah.
And even if it is a risky fight, if you throw 3 in the snowball, even if it was likely a death, the fact that you're committing to it is more likely. Maybe your team gets drawn in, maybe you've got just enough, maybe RNG's on your side.
That's for sure.
You gotta just let it happen.
Yeah, and we definitely got drawn into a few too many things, I think.
Right.
So I want to bring this up because I was thinking about it in the game, and as much as like this was a very fun lane and a fun combo, by all accounts, I like thinking about this practically. I was thinking that I would probably replace Tusk with like a Rubik in the future if I was to like actually run this in like a serious sense or a more serious sense. Like after having attempted this type of thing, I feel like that would have patched the holes. What do you guys think? Do you guys think you'd change anything from the three heroes, or do you think it's just like a synergy thing and we just have to practice it, or have like a different mid and off lane? I think that also could have helped maybe. Either of you can start first. I'll leave it up to y'all.
I feel like I feel like I don't know. In one sense, I feel like changing the Tusk out like destroys the identity of the lane, because I feel like that the lane is like you snowball in Ursa and then there's an Ogre Magi also, because that's dope. But like if you change the Tusk out, then like you've kind of got a different animal. So like if we wanted to talk about like an Ursa Ogre lane, like yeah, I think you could do different things. But like for me, the core of it is like how do you optimize snowballing in a very angry bear. And I feel like you could. I mean, honestly, like you could change the Ogre out with a Rubik as well. Like Rubik's really cool. And I feel like I don't know. Like I feel like Rubik doesn't fit into just like any draft ever. But like I think Rubik actually like is pretty good with these heroes. I feel like Disruptor also would be really cool with this.
Especially as a mid laner.
I agree, especially as a mid laner.
Fuck off.
No, I like the idea of a disruptor. It's an alternate approach to the Tusk mechanism of getting you into the fight. So instead of you going to the fight comes to you when you glimpse them back.
Yeah.
Because then it doesn't matter that you have to run into it anyway, because they're going to be there when you stopped running.
Yeah. You have a couple ways of like forcing someone next to an Ursa, and then like
Exactly.
if you, I don't know, I'm just imagining like snowballing in like into a static storm or something like that could be cool. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
See,
not like
disruptor, and Ursa to me, like having disruptor and Ursa like with the little static field and Ursa jumping into it makes me think of like a cage fight, and Ursa always wins cage fights.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, there were a couple times where I made nice ice shards that forced, or probably just one time actually, where I ice shards the Ursa and the Sven in, and I like had to struggle I'm not good at quoting movies, but I'm sure there's like a good you're in here with me quote from some terrible action movie.
It's not from a terrible movie. It's from Watchmen. What you don't realize is that I'm not locked in here with you. You're locked in here with me.
That's it's the Rorschach thing. See, somebody else referenced that on a podcast. I think it was on one of my favorite Walking Dead podcasts.
Whenever a fucking clockwork cogs you in and you kill him, like you gotta say that. You have to. That's like your moral obligation.
Yeah. There's something like that in Batman, in the newest Batman 2. Anyway, this is not the movie podcast as much as some people may wish it was. I would not be qualified at all for a movie podcast, that's for sure. Anyway, I think my idea with the Rubik instead of the Tusk was, so Tusk is bringing us to them, whereas Rubik, it's bringing them to us. So either way, it's about closing distance. So like Rubik, you could, it's a lot about counteracting the fact that Ogre's range isn't super long on his stun. So the idea behind it was either Tusk snowballs in the three of us, or a Rubik goes out ahead and then pulls the person back to us, or a Disruptor for that matter. Disruptor Ursa is actually a favorite combo of mine, and that was like one of my early Theorycrafting combos that I was planning to run that we ended up not running. But Disruptor Ursa is crazy strong. I am that's like, other than Shadow Shaman Ursa, I think that's like one of the best duos for an Ursa.
I like it. I don't know about the Rubik though. I don't feel like you can even remotely compare Rubik to like the reach that Snowball gives you or anything like that. But
I suppose. But I mean, if you have smokes and stuff,
if you do get the pullback, yeah, sure, that's pretty solid. But I feel like kind of the appeal of the Tusk is just like fucking press button, receive connection, like no matter what.
Yeah, but I mean, then that also has downsides. Whereas Rubik's a little less committal. But then again, like
but then you're not committing. It's not the thing anymore. You gotta commit.
And I don't know that in this lineup in particular, Rubik would have worked out all that much better. And in fact, I think he would have worked worse, given how gosh darn squishy he is. Unless he stole something really fantastic.
Yeah, I suppose that's
in
always
conclusion.
the issue.
Fuck you, Sam.
That's fine. I'll live with it. I mean, you don't like my disruptor mid. You don't like my Rubik anywhere, apparently. So I'll
I
survive.
didn't say that. I said this particular lineup.
Yeah, that's
Rubik's
fair. I mean,
cool.
honestly, I think this particular lineup, like having a Murano off lane, is, in my opinion, pretty garbage, and having a sniper mid is okay, but it really did not pan out. Like we had no team fight. That's like, if I'm designing my perfect comp, these are not my mid or my off lane anyway.
I feel like if you had like even like a Queen of Pain mid, just something to give your. I always say this, but like every team needs like a real body of damage that can like overall reduce people's health enough that they're in kill range. But when you have a sniper, like you're not really going to be hurting anyone, and when you have a Mirana, you're not going to be hurting anyone. You're just going to like take them down with physical damage. And like Ursa, like he comes in and he kills someone, and then the fight's over, and you either win or you lose. And Sniper is not like he doesn't decide to fight that quickly. He does it very slowly. So I feel like a Queen of Pain, or like even like a TA would be cool. Just something that puts the damage out a little faster, and then an offlaner that gives some amount of control, or like just swapping that around a little bit in any regard would have been good. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I'm kind of like just thinking about the draft now. I think like it sounds a little silly, and I think we've talked about this in the previous weeks. But Tidehunter, I feel like just works all the time, everywhere. Or not everywhere, but in every game. And I think an offlane Tide would have been really interesting here to give us the AoE control that we lacked.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, like a mid quap or something, because we had like no magic damage, as we discussed earlier. So once they had a bunch of Ghost Scepters, it was like, all right, there's just 3 people we can't kill for like 6 seconds at a time.
Yeah.
Right, and the Tidehunter does add an additional amount of tank to in addition to the AoE control.
For sure.
I was just going to say, one thing our team needed was one more tanky melee guy.
Yeah. Well, we could have. Oh my god, he wouldn't even need a blink dagger. All right, we'd snowball him in.
Easy.
And
snowball in Tide and Ursa. This is the real synergy we were looking for.
That's what we needed.
Yeah, and then we should have just done a support Tide and just let it happen.
Yeah, I cannot say I've run support Tide. Actually, I was about to say I have, but I've not done that.
Like TI2 shit.
Yeah, but then again, like as long as you hit 6 and have Ravage, like you could go wherever the heck you want.
Yeah, sure, whatever.
Yeah, Jungle Tide, new meta.
Jungle Tide, Iron Talon, why not? Okay.
Yeah. So, unfortunately, we don't have a 4th or a 5th person on this podcast to play Tidehunter and mid Disruptor for my perfect team comp. But
wait, how do you? Oh yeah, so
okay,
maybe the mid Disruptor.
I can get you a Tidehunter.
Yeah.
Maybe the mid Disruptor, but just imagine. Okay, so I think this is the best. You go offlane Tide, and then like I think mid Lina would actually be really good here because we would have like so much zoning for the Lina, and she'd be able to like throw out so many like Dragon Slaves and nice actual AoE damage that you wouldn't really need the like mobility of the Quap. You could do the damage of the Lina instead.
Yeah, somewhere Grouty is cringing, but yeah,
Does he hate mid Lina?
He hates Lina. He thinks Laguna Blade is an overpowered ability.
I don't think so. I think he just says that when you bitch about Omni Slash.
Yeah, the Wiggly G is an unhappy individual when it comes to Lina. Anyway, that's that. Do you have any closing notes for the 3 of us before I opt into the plugs? Some added plugs too, because we have a nice guest this week. All right. So the ultimate question is: would either of the 2 of you run this again in a similar situation? Personally, I think it's fun. I think it's a good time if you have a few people, possibly some adult beverages, and you just want to dive constantly. I feel like that would be a very entertaining trilane to run. But I think in a competitive sense, I would probably swap out 1 or 2 of these, or probably one of these heroes, any of the 3, honestly, or maybe not the Ursa, in the future. So, how about Lurka? You first.
I'd certainly consider running something like this. I mean, obviously with a different mid and offlaner. For Standard Deviant Noobs, our 80-12 team, mostly because we've played together so much that we are that well coordinated, and we know like kind of the timings that our Tusk player does, and we know when our Ursa was going to want to dive, and so like that level of coordination existing beforehand, I think would make this lane like really fucking terrifying in a good way for us. But with the option to swap out the Tusk for somebody who brings the fight to you instead. But okay. I would definitely use it in the situation of a team that I understand how they play, and we all know each other really well and can coordinate as a result.
Gotcha. All right. Proud.
I feel like just to talk to Lurk about this a little bit. I feel like with your team, what you're saying with like the silencer, like you could do a silencer mid, and then if you swap the Tusk out for like someone that had like a little bit more AoE damage to make up for the silencer not having too much himself, like that'd actually be really cool. Like you do the whatever Ursa initiation into like global silence, and then you have like basically you're giving Ursa BKB every time you global silence, so that'd actually be really cool.
Oh, that's really cool. And then you would be able to do a little more damaging items. Like this game, you had to go Ags and BKB, which isn't something we really talked about. But a lot of times you want
and I couldn't
either
go Diffusal despite all the it was pretty rough.
Yeah, so I mean that actually makes a lot of sense with a silencer.
Yeah, I really like the idea of running a silencer like as a way to give another hero like a BKB basically, because like when I can cast spells, like as long as they're not BKB'd into like casting Echo Slam or something, like as long as they don't have BKBs and mantas on their supports, Global Silence is basically a BKB for a core. So I really like running him in that regard.
Okay, that's interesting. So, Proudy, is your consensus?
I had a lot of fun. Like there was one time where like I was getting dived by the centaur and like I dinged 6 while I was like running away, and so like I turned on him and he's like, oh, he knows he can't get away, so I'm gonna stun him. And like in the middle of his animation, I like fucking skilled up ulti, pressed it. He like fucking stomps and then double edges me and I take no damage and we like turn around and kill him and then kill 3 more people. I was just like, oh my god, this is so much fun. So I loved it. I had a great time. I was like, I don't know. I had a really good time. So it was all good. I'd run it any day.
All right. Well, I think
switch out the offlaner for anything like a Tide or an Earthshaker even, or like a Sand King. I don't fucking care as long as it does something AoE fashion. And then the mid for like Lina or Quap or something would be good.
Yeah, I don't think it's been outed on this podcast, but I'm of the many heroes that I just hate. Not indiscriminately. I hate discriminately. Mirana is like top of that list. I think that hero is just like utter garbage, because no pun intended, it's very hit or miss, right? Either your Mirana hits arrows and she's useful, or she misses arrows and she's worthless.
Yeah, I don't think that's a pun. That's just like a literal. Like she literally either hits or misses.
Yeah, well, okay. Either way, it's a thing.
It's not even a saying when you deal with Mirana. That's just actually how it is.
I suppose. But yeah, so I would like any offlaner that isn't a Mirana.
Agreed.
Anyway,
that's fair.
Also nowadays, like we see her as a 4 and just roaming, and she just exerts constant pressure because you don't know if she's jungling or if she's trying to arrow your mid, or you're safe or you're off, or who even knows. So in a different world.
I was about to make like a Havost 4 joke, but then I realized like how old that is as a result of him just not being very relevant, and I got like really sad.
You're right, you are old. All right, let's do some plugs, shall we? So of course, our ergonomic specialist, stats woman extraordinaire, etc., etc. Aficionado, that's what we agreed on, wasn't it?
Yep.
Is Lurkaderp, of course. You can find her very conveniently on Twitter at Lurkaderp. No weird numbers, no Dota, no etc. It's always nice when somebody has a Twitter handle that's concise. I am Lurkaderp. My Twitter is Lurkaderp.
It's really convenient.
That's also kind of me talking about how good my Twitter handle is, being that I am Ursinity, and my Twitter.
You're a little left out here.
Yeah, well, when your name is catchy like Proud, that also means that other people have that already. So that's rough.
You didn't want to see it when it was something else. It was longer.
Yeah,
it's bad.
Yeah, I've cycled through a few names, and Ursinity is not one I would have stuck with, but I am stuck with it by circumstance. So I, of course,
good plugs
at Ursinity. So our style of plugging. It's very informal, and boy, there's a euphemism there. Anyway, and you can find Proud at Proud Dota on Twitter. The 3 of us, easily accessible. I, of course, am the Twitter fiend, unfortunately. So you can watch the game that we just played on YouTube. .ptv1 is our YouTube channel. Our website is defensivenations.com. That's where you can find all our stuff, articles, the in-house ladder, which is good, and all that. That's a good time. You can also find our Amazon banner there, which is nice. You should click it when you're going to buy stuff on Amazon. Getting ready for summer, buying, I don't know, whatever the heck people buy, getting ready for summer.
Bathing suits, towels.
Bathing suits, I suppose.
Sunscreen, don't get skin cancer.
Oh, yeah, good idea.
Yep, when you're buying your ergonomic supports, etc., do it through Amazon, or
Definitely.
I suppose some other medical professional. I wouldn't know. We have a subreddit as well. Subreddit is r/defenseofthepatients. It's where you can get at us. Again, email us, defenseofthepatients@gmail.com. As always, show up to our in-houses. They're a lot of fun. Lurka can attest despite the fact that she did have to play against Proud's Lone Druid.
Proud's Lone Druid.
Yeah. The one game that happened was unfortunately Lurka's first time in the in-houses, but it's always a good time. As long as you target ban a certain few heroes against a certain few people, or like as long as you don't target ban against me, because that's just rude. Anyway, those are 9EST on Thursdays and Saturdays. We stream them. I cast, Proud cast, other people cast, and it's always a good time. It's
Are they still 9EST or are they now 9 EDT?
EST, 9 EST. And then we usually go until 12 EST, sometimes 1. It depends on how long the games are. We always run 2 lobbies concurrently and 3 rounds of lobbies. So there's 6 games. There's opportunities for 60 people to play, and it's always a good time. And if it's your first time, you get priority. We will find a way to get you in there. We will kick somebody that's played out. We will tell them that they can't play with us anymore because we want the new people in. It's fun. Show up. And last but not least, of course, we have our Patreon. Patreon.com/Defense of the Patients. If you like what we do, you want to throw us, a few dollars, whatever. If you want to 1v1 mid Roland and beat him and just like batter that guy's pride down, feel free. You can donate for a very nominal fee and just like ruin Roland. And boy, trust me, it's cathartic beating him.
Very nominal, I would say. Emphasize the nominality of the fee.
Yeah, it's not even a fee because it's more like a polite
payment.
Donation. Yeah, it's like. We're like the Santa with the ringing of the bell thing outside of your local supermarket, except like the money doesn't go to kids or
it goes to my wallet.
Yeah, exactly. Not any of the rest of us here at Defense of the Patients, just Proud.
Just directly me, yeah.
It's weird. It's a weird kind of.
I want to do that. I want to just like have a Santa suit and just like ring a bell and have my wallet open. Like that would be great.
Yeah, well, you shouldn't give money to those people anyway because they hate the gays, but. That's
right.
That's a tangent. Ursinity, your friendly SJW. Anyway, before this gets off on any other weird tangents, I want to thank Lurkaderp again for coming on our show, playing an entire game with us in an hour-long game too. It's quite the commitment.
It's fine. It was lots of fun playing with you guys.
Great, glad to hear it. All right, and yep. So that's that. That's enough plugs, I suppose. We spent.
Did we say Amazon? I feel like we missed that one.
We definitely said it. And,
okay, good. I just don't pay attention to anything. Sorry.
That's fair. Anyway, this has been our theory, and remember, it's our idea, but it's probably your fault.
We're snipers.